Hello everyone and welcome to the LingQ Podcast with me, Elle. If you're studying English, don't forget that you can study these podcast episodes as English lessons on LingQ. Work your way through the transcript as you listen, translating words and phrases as you go. Those words and phrases will then be saved in your own personal database. You can study them in vocabulary exercises and they'll be highlighted differently in future content. Excellent way to level up your English, so check it out. The lesson link is in the video description. Don't forget you can also start an English challenge on LingQ. Check out the challenges page to see the different challenges that we have. Another great way to boost your level and make a breakthrough with your English. This week I am joined by a very cool guest. She is a comic book artist and pop surrealist painter and creator. I'm joined today by Camilla Darico. Camilla, how are you?
Good. How are you doing, Elle?
I'm great. Thank you. And thank you so much for joining me. You're joining me from Vancouver Island today, right?
That's right. Yes. I used to live in Vancouver for, so many years. And then just last year we moved to Vancouver Island and it's amazing.
Yes, I bet. I got a kind of a mini tour of your places just before we recorded. It looks beautiful. How is, what's the lifestyle like on Vancouver Island?
Island life is like being semi-retired. It could be because I think we moved into a retirement community without meaning to. We're just, we're like, hey, that house looks nice. And then we're like, wait a second, everyone here is like, oh, like there's no one under 70. We're like, okay, so it's so peaceful and quiet. You see golf carts, like just motoring every day past the house. And I'm like, oh, there you go. Here's like Phil going golfing. It's really quiet. And honestly, it's such a difference from living in Vancouver, where my husband and I, we lived in a loft that was just in the middle of downtown, right in the middle. And it was just loud. There would be sirens honking. There would be people screaming or talking, or it's very, very different. And I love it. I love this quiet, peaceful, life.
Excellent. Well, it sounds lovely. It does. Camilla, I want to talk a little about how you got into art, essentially. So were you always a bit of an arty child? Were you always drawing, doodling, or did it kind of come later?
Yeah, totally. So my mom, she said that when I was born, she said my hands were that of an artist. She just knew right away that I'd be artistic. Huh. And my mother was a midwife in Italy too. So she saw a lot of babies. And I don't know, she was always so encouraging. My mother, when my parents immigrated to Canada, they ended up having a daycare center in the home. And I was surrounded by children all the time. And I was coloring in coloring books and, painting and doing all these artistic things. And I just, I think maybe it was meant to be, and maybe it was just that my mother was encouraging, but I always was drawn to cartoons and art and beautiful things. So yeah, it was, I think if I could have been, I would have been born with a crayon in my hand.
It sounds like the perfect blend. So you're born with kind of skill and these hands, and then you have parents who nurture that, especially your mom. So
my parents, they wanted to be, because my parents immigrated, they wanted me to have a really good life. So they were scared initially about me being an artist, right? Because the starving artist there's a saying for a reason. Mm-hmm. But they were they were very encouraging, but also very practical. And right. I think that really helped me develop in as a professional artist. So it wasn't just a hobby. As soon as they realized I wanted to do this as a career, they were like, okay, well, if you're gonna do it, you gotta have to do it right. And I'm like, yep.
Right. Is anyone in your family, your parents, are they artistic, or anyone in your aunts, uncles, grandparents that you know of?
So my mom, she's artistic. And then my why can't I say it? My great grandma. Oh my gosh. So she was very artistic too, Nonna Pia. And yeah, there was I guess it runs in both sides of the family. My sisters didn't get any of it though. It was all condensed into me. But they're, my family, I think they're creative thinkers. And they definitely are very unique in how they approach life. And so it's not just like, so my family's creativity kind of comes out in different ways. And for me, it was a very visual kind of way.
And did you know then from a young age that art was what you wanted to do for your career then?
Oh yeah. I actually thought that, so I was really big into dinosaurs. I don't know if you were, but I was like obsessed with dinosaurs. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is the best thing ever. I could just have a career of drawing dinosaurs. I thought that was what a paleontologist did. So when I learned that, nope, we have to go into the hot sun and dig up dinosaur bones, and then there's all this other, and I'm like, I've got the skin, the color of, mozzarella. So I would have burned so quick. I mean, I get sunburns just being indoors. So imagine if I had gone outside. So after that, it was funny because, my mom being like, so like around kids all the time, we watched a lot of cartoons, and it wasn't until The Little Mermaid, the Disney movie, that I was like, I turned to my mom and I'm like, oh my gosh, I love this so much. And my mom mentioned, she's like, yeah, well, that's somebody, that's a career right there. And I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, she's like, well, people get paid to do that. I'm like, people get paid to, I'm like, are you kidding me? People get paid to animate? And my mom was like, yeah. I'm like, oh, that's it. I'm going to be an animator. So and that was when I was 12. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to be, younger than that. I don't even remember. And my mom was like, okay, well, if you want to be an animator, you have to like take all of the, electives in high school and, go to courses. So that was what I had planned to do. Now, I'm just a terrible animator. I actually was like the worst. I didn't like it. I didn't like the repetition of it. So it wasn't for me. So I found other avenues to express myself creatively.
And did you go to school for art?
Yeah, I did. So I went to the Kelowna University, and I went there and I did a semester of practical arts before I ended up going to the Vernon College to do the animation program. So I learned, and I mean, I took all sorts of electives in high school, and then when I graduated from the animation program, I went back to school in Vancouver, and that was at the Kelowna University, and I did the idea program, which is design, illustration, and painting. So I have a very well-rounded creative history,
So I mentioned in your intro that you are a pop surrealist painter and creator, because you don't just paint, you create jewelry, fashion, like toys too. You've done so much. It's very cool. So what is pop surrealism?
So, it's funny. I didn't even know that pop surrealism existed until somebody mentioned it to me years ago. And so pop surrealism is basically a faction of the lowbrow art movement, which developed in the 70s. And it was this movement of artists who were doing a bit darker stuff, but more cartoony. They branched off from what the traditional art was, realism and pointillism and abstract. Like they were taking essentially like cartoons and elevating it. And so pop surrealism, it's the lighter side of that. It's it's really fun. So it's like essentially taking pop art and then twisting it with surrealism. So I fell into that without knowing it. I was just painting girls with, my style is inspired by animation, which anime in the Japanese style, and portraitures from Italy, obviously my background is that. And so I was always obsessed with the Renaissance. And so it was like an amalgamation of the two. And because I did this kind of surreal elements of having like giant animals on a little girl, like small heads, it was like, oh, that's surreal. And I just was absorbed into that movement of art.
Right. So you were doing it before you even knew there was a name for it, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't even know. I was like, because the movement was in Los Angeles mostly, and I was in Vancouver, and I didn't even know about it until a collector from Los Angeles kind of mentioned it,
And you say animals on the heads. I'll show some images for those people watching, and links, of course, to your art for those who are just listening. But I especially love anything tentacles of yours is just so cool.
Oh, thank you. Well,
So
you know,
cool.
and when I started out, I mean, I've been doing this for so long that there's been so many stages in my career. So I started out with like gargantuan headgear, the helmet girls, and then it evolved into girls with animals on their heads, and now I'm splicing rainbows. It's so much fun.
Yeah. Has there been like you say, you've been at this for a while, you have so much work. Has there been a kind of highlight of your career so far?
Oh my goodness. Well, that might be an easier question if I wasn't a Libra that can't make decisions. So I definitely know that I think a pivotal show for me was my Niji Bambini show, which means Rainbow Children. And it was a point in my career where I took off from doing just girls like with animals, and it became the rainbow children. And like this is one of mine. So she would be considered one of the rainbow children. Right. And I branched off from doing what people expected me to do. And I took a risk, because anytime that you have collectors, or you're doing like or you're a musician or something, and then you have a change of style, suddenly you could lose a lot of people. And it's like you've built this audience, and what if I'm betraying them by giving them something they don't expect? So that for me was a show that I had to do it, because if I didn't, I wouldn't be true to myself as an artist. Because when you have all these ideas in your head and I want to explore those, I don't want to put myself in a box, a creative box, you know?
Yeah. So
that was definitely a make it or break it show, where I was like, I'm going to do this. And if it fails, then that's fine. I'll just be a comic book artist, and I can hang my hat as a painter, and I'll do it proudly. I'll do it with like flair. And, you know, it turns out that it was one of my most successful shows in terms of like, I really surprised people in a good way. Like they were blown away by these rainbow girls. Like, I think I have yeah. So this was one of my rainbow children. This is the very first one. No, so this was
cute.
The dream melt, and she's just crying these rainbows. And I don't think anyone had ever seen that before. And after that, I mean, you see people melting rainbows and dripping all colors. And I can see that that's influenced probably by what I did, what I've been doing for the past 10 years. So
yeah, that must be amazing to see your idea, your work in other people's work. Do you ever feel like, hey, that's my idea?
I've definitely experienced direct ripoffs, which is yeah, like I have, but that's like another. I do think that, like, obviously artists, we inspire each other, and it's like if one person does one idea, then someone else will take it and be like, you know, make it their own, and that's totally fine. I think it's just when people do that direct
right
copy, where I'm like, you are not being true to yourself as an artist. You're just taking someone else's popular idea and trying to make money, which isn't what artists should be doing. I mean, maybe this is the starving artist thing, but you need to be creating art because it comes from yourself, from who you are, and not because you like what someone else is doing and you want to be popular too. Do you know what I mean? So
right. Yeah. And how did the toys and figurines creation come about?
Oh yeah, so that actually was probably since 2009 or 2008. Yeah. So I was doing at the time I was just doing prints, and I was doing books, but because I love comic books, and I go to conventions, and you see they make action figures out of the art and like anime figures. I love those so much, and I always wanted my art to be 3-dimensional because it adds another level. It brings something that, you know, I had an idea, and it brings it like literally physically to life. So I've always wanted that. And so when my sister started working with me, and she started to do the merchandising side of things, because I needed to focus on art creation. I needed to focus on like galleries and doing that. And so bringing my sister on board helped me to I guess, brand myself into merchandise, which I previously hadn't really been able to do because I didn't have the time and I mean, there's only one of me, right? So,
right.
Yeah. And then eventually my sister moved on to a different career, which is, I'm so happy for her. And I just kind of took over, and it was like, I was in the position then where I learned a lot, and like now I have umbrellas and kimonos, and I mean, there's
that's so
yeah,
cool.
there's and the figures too. Like, yes, I work with other companies to do sculptures and figures of my artwork because I'm not an expert there. Like, I'd rather collaborate with other people and have their expertise like bring something to life versus me trying to, hand make a mold, which I don't know how to do that. So yeah. But yeah, it's fun. It's like really cool to see all the different ways that you can take your art and make it wearable or add it to someone's life,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not just on their wall anymore. It's like they could take it outside and they can wear it,
Yeah, it's very cool. So, I mean, it sounds like it's such a wonderful career. You've clearly doing well. You've really built this amazing life and career with your art. I wonder, is there a kind of dark side to the career? I mean, I know you've mentioned the kind of people copying you, straight ripping you off. What have been some other obstacles you've faced as an artist?
Oh boy, that is a whole other, like, do you have 3 hours?
Yeah. Oh no.
Well, it's artists can be taken advantage of, unfortunately. And if you don't know how to protect yourself, you don't even know that there's people who will take advantage of you. So, and that's why being an artist, you have to really have a good sense of business, because if you don't, then there's this naivety about artists where we can be so positive and we're creating this and we give it to somebody else to do something with it. And you expect that they're just going to honor your trust.
Right.
But I think one of the lowest points for me was when I was working on an Avril Lavigne manga. So it's an Avril Lavigne comic book.
Oh, cool.
And which was, crazy and insane. So it was a 2-part series, and I didn't have a contract with the company. And I'm like, okay, well, I did the first book without a contract, but I'm like, well, I need a contract. Like, it has to happen. I'm working on the second book. I just want to protect myself. And my lawyer is going back and forth with the publisher. And then I'm still working on the book as the contract is kind of being negotiated. And then I get a phone call saying, oh, we'd like to meet at, I should have seen it coming, at like a public location. And they're just like, we're going to have to terminate you. And I'm like, but I'm almost halfway through the book. And there was this particular kill clause in the contract where if they terminated me and 50% of the art had been done, they owed me for the entire book. Okay. And if they, which that's a pretty standard thing. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right. But for them, they were really pushing against that. And I understood why, because they had actually hired somebody else who was working on the book while I was working on the book, and they were negotiating with me. So that was really gut wrenching, because I brought them the writer, I brought them the everything in order to develop that book. And then they just outsourced it. And I was 40% done. And so I was like just at the edge, and that was really disappointing. And people actually, a lot of people don't realize that I didn't do the second book because they hired the company to basically recreate my style. So.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And they used my cover for the second book. So when you look at it, you think that, oh yeah, Camilla drew it, but I didn't. So. Shady. And of course, I'm not going to say who it was, but you know. So there was that. There's a low point, and then there's other things that happen where it's so frustrating, and it's not like, like for example, when I was doing conventions before the apocalypse and before the pandemic, you know, I would have stuff mailed, and I remember one time specifically, I opened the box and half of it was empty, and I called my team who had packed it, and I'm like, hey, like, you guys did you not fill the box? And like, I'm like, where is everything? And they're like, no, like, we sent you everything. And it turns out that somebody mid-transit opened the box, took out half the stuff, and then kept it going. So yeah, so someone stole thousands of dollars.
Oh my goodness. Oh
yeah.
Wow.
And you know, that was through FedEx, which is a reliable place. And they're like, well, we delivered it. I'm like, you delivered? And there's no way, there's no recourse there. They're not gonna
no insurance.
Delivered. No. Well, they can't because the box wasn't stolen, and I can't prove that someone stole what was inside. You know.
Goodness.
Yeah. So. Oh no, I know. And then the last thing I will mention is somebody made a whole entire show that was my art, recreated my paintings almost like exactly, I'd say like 95% exactly, and had a show and then represented that art as their own.
Is there anything you can do in that case?
Yeah, I mean, you contact the gallery. Well, you could sue, but I mean, it was a young artist, and I was just like, I contacted the gallery and I let them know, and the artist, you know, I'm like, you know, you have to have some integrity. Because you may be my fan, but you're literally stealing from me. And if you're a fan of my art, that's a huge betrayal, you know? Mm-hmm. So
as much as you can plan these days, how is 2022 looking for you? Anything?
Yeah, I mean, with the hope that there's going to be a little bit more normalcy in 2022, I do plan on going to some of the major conventions that I missed out on going this year, because, you know, living in Canada, and the borders being so finicky, like they could just shut down at any point. I just decided to take a hiatus from doing the conventions, because even the conventions themselves, they don't know if they're going to happen. And also, and this isn't by any means to like, but I just don't think that even just during the pandemic, it's a good idea to, you know, get 70,000 people together in one spot. Yeah. So it's like, I'm like, you know, for me, I understand that we're all boxed in, and like, I basically have been living in lockdown for 2 years, but if, I just want to go to conventions again when I feel like it's a bit more handled, and hopefully it will be, you know, like, so there's that. And then, so hopefully I'll be able to do like in-person events again. I do have a new coloring book that's coming out next year. Oh, cool. with Random House. It's cute. It's called Dragons and Other Magically Mythical Creatures. So it's full of like some of my favorite, you know, animals and mythical creatures and all sorts of crazy things. So I've got that coming out.
Excellent.
And then I have my next art book coming out with Dark Horse called Dappled Daydreams. So I'm looking forward to that release, and hopefully, fingers and toes crossed, this Helmet Girls figure that I'm working on is going to be released as well. So
wow, so lots going on. Now, how many books have you written? Have you created?
I think it's close to 20 at this point.
Whoa,
I think so.
amazing.
It's definitely like 15, and then with these 2 new ones, it's going to be closer to So.
Excellent. So an exciting year, and hopefully exciting with the things that you're releasing, and hopefully exciting and that you'll get to travel a bit too. Fingers crossed.
Fingers and toes. I'm really hoping. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining me, Camilla. It was a great chat, and best of luck with everything in 2022.
Thank you. And thank you so much for having me. This has been a real treat. So I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. Have a great day. Bye.
Yeah, you too. Bye.